Then, Vic Gordon was Australia's favourite desk sergeant on Matlock Police.
The years just fly by. I mean, I came to Australia in 1959. I was going to stay for 16 weeks. I've been here ever since.
Now, Vic's hung up the Matlock phone, but that doesn't mean they won't be calling him for his next acting job.
I've enjoyed every minute of it, but now I'm 85 now, you see, and they don't write parts for grandpas.
For decades, TV cops, spies, and private eyes have been keeping the screen safe for all of us. Our defenders of justice have always had their work cut out for them. Especially when you're doing battle with a villainous spy from the opposite side of the Iron Curtain.
This week, Hunter has his first face-to-face encounter with his archenemy, Crag.
Hi, Todd.
Be with him just a moment.
Okay.
My God, Craig! You little bugger, and here's me without a gun, too.
Together again, Hunter and his nemesis, Crag. But for the men who played them, Tony Ward and Gerard Kennedy, it's been 25 years since their paths have crossed.
Well, great to see you.
Yes, you too.
After a life of evil, Crag saw the light and joined the forces of good with Hunter.
Well, you remember when you got shot and defected and joined us?
Yes.
I never trusted you.
No.
Never trusted you for a minute.
So I volunteered to get underneath this dead shark, which is still quite warm, to make it move for camera. And I was underneath it, and there were these huge jaws right in my face. It felt awful.
I didn't know that.
Yes. I was the animator.
Back on dry land, Tony now owns an antique print and map gallery. Gerard is still in the game, but these days on the big screen.
If you're in there all the time, where am I going to sleep?
We might do a revival at some stage.
Then or otherwise?
Well, the question is, what side would you be on?
Exactly.
Crag wasn't the only one who mended his wicked ways. This next baddie fired more shots than any criminal in the history of homicide. But he ended up becoming one of the show's most loved crime fighters.
You name it, and I did it. Robbed, pillaged, whatever. And even the police believe it. You know, when I changed into the detective, they thought it was marvellous. I didn't get a speeding ticket for the next 10 years. And that's a true story.
Playing Detective Patterson put Norman Yemm on the right side of the law and made him a household face. If only the fans could get the name right.
He said, "Aren't you one of the detectives on Homicide?" I said, "Yeah, that's right." And he said, "Well, look, that's my favourite show." I said, "Oh, thanks very much." My ego, you see. "Thanks very much." He said, "Here, can I shake your hand?" I said, "Certainly." So I shook his hand and he said, "I can't wait until I get home and tell my wife I've met Leonard Teal at last."
These days, life's quite a balancing act for Norman.
Sweet mystery of life, at last I found thee. At the moment, I'm rehearsing this play for the Best of Gilbert and Sullivan. In this show, I've got to ride a unicycle. I'm more on the floor than off it. But I will conquer it.
Isn't there a law against that? Now, despite what they made you believe, Russell Street was by no means the crime capital of the world. Thousands of kilometers away, the boys on Hollywood's Sunset Strip also had some bad guys to bust.
'77 Sunset Strip was our #1 show as Australian TV tuned into the '60s. The suave PI role made Efrem Zimbalist Jr. a huge star.
77 Sunset Strip.
Starring Efrem Zimbalist Jr.
Now, Efrem still acts from time to time and swings a mean club on his Santa Barbara ranch.
I love golf. I play a lot of it, and pretty bad golf, too. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't play golf, because it occupies quite a lot of my life when I'm not working.
While Efrem's golf may not win him any prizes, playing TV detectives did. When making the FBI files, J. Edgar Hoover entrusted the actor to carry a real badge.
When we made the show, These credentials that I had to be photographed, so they had to be real. I signed my own name, Louis Erskine, and he signed J. Edgar Hoover. And they were the only credentials that he ever signed except for an agent because they were real. I mean, I could have held up a bank. I could have done anything with these credentials.
Just a minute, sir. Just a moment. Just a moment.
I get a fun.
Yes. Well, I will return.
The Crawfords had a lot of courage in writing that sort of policeman, and we, in fact, thought we'd be in a lot of trouble. In fact, the policemen were very nice about it. And people, in fact, even today are called Roy, you know, if they're one of these guys that stumble and bumble around.
Gil Tucker brought something new to Australian TV cops.
Riley, I wanted to make a number of phone calls.
Oh, no, there'll be no phone calls made during working hours.
We'd never laughed at the boys in blue before. Roy Baker became a star attraction.
Johnson requested
I remember once going to the Collingwood football ground, and the cheerleaders stood up and, you know, got them to say Roy Baker. And it's a bit daunting when 20,000 people stand up and say Roy Baker, and I thought, well, there's something happening here.
Now, with the cheers of the crowd behind him, Gil's running a wholesale herb business in Melbourne.
Well, I think having been associated with fresh produce for the past 7 or 8 years and going out to the Footscray market and having my previous history involved in showbiz, I think it'd be great to marry the two. I'm sure there's a series in it somewhere.
This isn't quite working out.
He did the unthinkable by beating the Americans at their own game. As the Equalizer, Edward Woodward was voted TV's sexiest cop.
Now it's working out.
Don Johnson came second to me as the most sexy man on television. And, see? Her ladyship. This is exactly what she did when she read it.
It's mine, I got it.
How can you be the sexiest man on television when you snore all night?
Yeah.
You can't be the sexiest
And I was of a
man.
certain age, you know, and it was just a... There's no need to give, you know, the whole of Australia, come on, do me a favour, you know.
No, he's a very sexy person.
Her ladyship is none other than Michelle Dotrice, who you may recognize from a past TV partnership.
It's just that sometimes when I look at you, I get so depressed.
Today, the only thing that drags this famous couple away from their English Eden in Cornwall is work. And sometimes they get to share the stage as well.
And I remember when we did Rich III together, I didn't enjoy living with Rich III.
No,
that was not a pretty sight.
Difficult to go to bed with this man with this giant hump on the back.
No, but you were hell. You were hell.
We sometimes keep horses inside.
Away from the stage, there's still a double act, and one that very rarely plays to the public.
You're supposed to come under here and do a tiddle. This is puppy training. We're actually sitting in teeming rain, which we wouldn't do for a lot of people, would we?
No, not a lot. We'd only do it for you.
Warm. We're actually getting double pneumonia.
It's fine English rain.
Fine English rain.
Fine English rain.
And he's attacking that eye. He's punching away at that eye, the injured one.
Years before the Gladiators hulked into being, guys like Mario Milano worked up a real sweat on screen. That was then. Next, Mario Milano now.
Because what you did to me, I will never forget, and every chance I have to get in the ring with you, you're going to pay for.
Vision screen.